welcome back to the Coin Republic's podcast, Money and Me, and we have with us Yat Siu yet again on our podcast. He's always been an amazing guest, and we are going to deep dive into gaming, Web3, blockchain, and of course the comparison versus Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is rather new. It's actually an old topic, but it is being talked about a lot in the market now again. But first, let's start with gaming. Yat, you're all about gaming, or quite a bit about gaming?
So yeah, we have over 600 portfolios now, and over 200 are in gaming. So we are very much in gaming. However, we're also very diversified areas.
Absolutely. Yeah. Talking about diversification, what other sectors are you focusing on now other than gaming?
Yeah, I mean, maybe we should quickly talk about gaming, because I think there's a whole institutionalization that's happening as well in gaming as well. Yesterday, we announced basically that AlphaTon, which is basically a digital asset treasury company on Ton, acquired or is going to acquire a controlling stake in Gamey, right? And they're also going to be buying tokens, which makes actually Gamey maybe the very first Web3 gaming digital asset treasury company, right? And of course, the token ripped and everything because everyone's very excited. But more importantly, it shows that there's institutional interest as well in the gaming world, right? Which to me is a new evolution, right? And I think this is true for all tokens, not just for gaming. You have to basically have the ability to have institutional appeal. If you can't, then you will still be okay, but you won't be able to sort of reach that next level, shall we say, because it's not just TradFi capital, it's also a way of being trusted, right? And so we'll see much more of that. You know, and I think one of the reasons why, so gaming, we're bullish on gaming because the on-chain activity on gaming is higher than ever, right? So there's more people playing blockchain games and they're all entering the space. However, the tokens have done badly. And that's because people who own the token and who play the game are not exactly one-to-one, right? So if you look at the Venn diagram between the two, there's a cross-section, maybe it's 10, 20%, but it's not 80% or 100%, right? And the difference is that when you have a token, you basically have to do a kind of investor relations, right? And I would argue that most of the basically Web3 gaming projects make great games. Some of them do very well in the gaming and they're profitable, but they don't know how to do investor relations because that's not what they do. Like you go to a gaming studio and say, and you have to manage investors that are not like 5 or 6 big shareholders, but literally like, you know, a community of 10,000 or 20,000, they don't know how to do this because it's completely out of their skill set. Whereas if you're a DeFi protocol or you're in finance, very likely you already understand investor relations because that's your background. So there's a little bit of element of that that I think needs to be looked at. And so if you look at tokens, you have to look at the founder. And is the founder someone capable of not just building and sort of being a megaphone, but also understands financial constructs and is able to communicate to the investors and speak the lingo, or has a team that can do that, right? I think that's important.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, other areas, obviously AI, DePIN, RWA is a very big topic for us. You know, we announced this joint venture called Nuva or Provenance Lab, stablecoin, you know, Anchor Point, which is a JV between us, Hong Kong Telecom, and Standard Chartered, right? So going very much in the institutional area. And of course, you know, Mochaverse, Mocha ID, that's a big topic for us, very critical because digital identity is actually something that is becoming more and more relevant, especially when you think about crypto growing. How do I build a trust index? How do I have a reputation system? We think basically digital ID is a way to do that. And you know, with Mochaverse, we'll talk about that later because when we're talking about Bitcoin versus Ethereum, actually what Mocha represents, and to some extent Animoca, is kind of a levered bet on altcoins, right? Because all of our investments are actually in these altcoins. And if you own a Mocha token, you have a way in which you could participate in them by just owning Mocha token, right? And I think there's more ability now to talk about utility and purpose, whereas before, remember the US was so negative and so hostile to crypto that everyone was saying, we're a meme coin, even if they have utility, right? They had to pretend that they had no utility. And now we can finally go out and talk about all the things you can do with the token and actually utilize. And that to me is going to be exciting, and actually all industries will grow, right? You know, all the sections I mentioned, but much more than that, right?
Makes sense. You spoke about all the different sectors in the Web3 space, and you also briefly mentioned about how Animoca's portfolio has drastically grown from the last time we spoke to now. Are there any interesting projects, some projects that you're really keen about?
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, outside of Mochaverse digital identity, Sand just announced Sand Chain as well. So basically a creator network. You know, think about, I don't know how many creators are on your channel, but you probably use something like Patreon. Right? And Patreon is, you know, a great platform, but you know, at the end of the day, it's a financial system. It's not very efficient. putting that on chain will change that, for instance. Or, I'm learning that basically YouTube creators sometimes take up to 90 days to get paid out. Right? That's a huge credit period, right?
Yeah.
And you know what's crazy? Why is a creator giving credit to YouTube? I mean, that's just insane, right?
Yeah.
Like this is, part of Google, $1 trillion of market cap, having hundreds of billions of dollars of revenue and cash, and you, the user, is giving credit to the platform. It should be the other way around, right? Like all these things that are basically completely upside down and wrong, basically that crypto can solve, right? So we're excited about Sandchain and what that's all about. And of course, another construct, with EDU is Pencil Finance. And Pencil Finance basically does on-chain student loans. There's like $3 trillion of student loans, very extractive market. Again, blockchain can make things better, faster, cheaper. So, and again, there's a lot more projects like that. It's like if you ask which is your favorite project, it's like picking out your favorite child. But these are things that we really think could help sort of shape the world in a different construct. Look, I mean, when you look at things like Aster and Hype, I mean, these are all great from a sort of trading standpoint. And I think it's very important. And they have getting all the attention. Right. But I would argue that the attention is amongst a small group of people that trade, right? So I would want to see a broader market, and the broader market is coming from basically things like student finance, or basically creator economies, or basically sort of gaming, right? That's actually where people come in. Absolutely. And then they learn about money, and then maybe they start trading on Hype or Aster or those things. Yeah.
You've often mentioned that the trading aspect of crypto is often highlighted, while all the other sectors are sort of overshadowed. And when we talk about that, I think Bitcoin sort of has the massive market cap as compared to almost 60%.
Yeah, anywhere depends, 55 to 60%, depending what day you look at.
With Bitcoin, and altcoins are still yet to redeem themselves. So what is your take on that? Do you think that altcoins are going to make a comeback? If so, how is that narrative change going to look like?
So sort of, if you want to call it my hot take, is that altcoins are going to be far bigger than Bitcoin.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, but before I get into that, altcoins have been doing well, maybe just not your altcoins, right? And I want to define that a little bit, which is to say, altcoins today is $1.4 trillion. That's about 5 times larger or 4 times larger than it was 4 years ago, right? Yeah. So you can't actually say collectively that has come down. It's just that maybe the altcoin that you bought 4 years ago hasn't gone up, because they're trying to compare it to Bitcoin. Right. They say, hey, look, Bitcoin went up. Yeah. So why does that altcoin not go up, right? Because you can't normally invest in an index of altcoins. It's hard to do because it's meme coins, it's this coin, how do I know what to do, right? But collectively, actually, where's the growth coming from? People are coming into the ecosystem because of altcoins, right? Whether it's gaming metaverse, whether it's L1, L2s like Ethereum, Solana, Optimum, Arbitrum, EDU chain, doesn't really matter, right? Whether it's basically people coming trading, whether it's people buying NFTs, right? They're coming in because of that. It's not people who bought Bitcoin that are then basically suddenly spending money in the other ecosystems, because nobody in Bitcoin likes to spend their Bitcoin. Bitcoin is like a savings account, right? So it's like gold, it's like digital gold. Right? Where's the spending happening? Ethereum, Solana, basically all the L1, L2s on the applications that are built on top. Now, what's my mental model? My mental model is gold versus the physical, sort of basically traditional markets. Gold is $25 trillion. The stock market is $128 trillion. Right? Commodities, everything else, $300 trillion. The entire market of everything that's built, about $900 trillion. Gold, $24 trillion, $25 trillion. Larger than Apple, right? Gold is bigger than Apple, it's bigger than gold. So we're saying no altcoin will ever be bigger than Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin will always be the biggest one. But collectively, right, when we get billions of users in crypto, altcoin is going to be naturally bigger than Bitcoin from our perspective, right? And so now you as an investor or a participant, how do you sort of engage in this? So I think this is where you have to start thinking about sort of managing your portfolio and hedging yourself appropriately, and also maybe giving the capital to people who know what they're doing in this area. And that's one of the reasons why we thought Mocha coin was interesting, because Mocha coin allows our users who own the token to have a participation, which they can essentially earn the tokens of our investment. So we're starting at 628 portfolio companies, but next year, hopefully we'll be at 700. Maybe after that, we'll be 800, 900. We did 123 investments in the last 18 months, right? So we'll continue to accelerate. And what that means is that we're going to have thousands and thousands of portfolio. And when they launch a token, then maybe there's a way for you to get that through Mocha. And we think that's one way to play the index. So it's not the only way, right? You might say, I just believe in Ethereum, I just believe in Solana. Go for it, if that's what you think is the case. But Solana is 3%, okay? I mean, and Solana can rise, but even Ethereum is like 10 or 13, 11, maybe 12%, right? And they are inflationary systems. This is the other thing. Bitcoin was designed as a store of value.
Yeah.
But to grow an ecosystem, you must have inflation.
Yeah.
And these inflationary systems bring in users, but it does affect the value of the token. So this idea that Ethereum is going to eclipse Bitcoin in value, I don't believe that.
Makes sense.
However, that Ethereum is going to be extremely important and birth the growth of other tokens collectively, that is true. And so I think, again, altcoins are collectively going to be much larger than Bitcoin.
Yeah, for sure. Looking forward to that future. Talking about future, what in the near future are you most excited about? Yeah, then we've seen the AI boom. We, of course, saw NFTs, metaverse. That's all still in the picture. But with the advent of AI and blockchain walking sort of hand in hand, what are you most excited about in the future?
I think a couple of things I'm really excited about. Well, first of all, I think stablecoins are going to be even more adopted because they're going to bring more people on board. That's also why we're getting involved in that. The second thing, obviously, RWAs. And again, I look at RWAs not as, hey, here's real estate that you can tokenize. That's okay, right? What I'm really excited about is tokenizing assets that you want, that you couldn't have before, right? Whether it's art or whether it's like royalties or that kind of really cool creative stuff. Because as an end user, you are much more likely to invest in something that you have a feeling for, that you like, right? And if you don't, if it's just an investment, then the people who typically invest in that are people who do it because they have a financial literacy or they, have a love of money or whatever. But most people don't think this way. And so you got to start it with an asset that I can own, that is valuable, that could appreciate in value. That is, however, something that I have a personal feeling towards. And I think that's our RWAs, and excited about that. And of course, student loans is very exciting as well. But we remain bullish on Web3 gaming. And the reason why is because, sentiment on gaming we think will shift by next year, with GTA 6. Electronic Arts was just acquired by the Saudis and Silver Lake at $55 billion, which is basically the biggest LBO in history. And the biggest LBO in history was not a bank, it was a gaming company, right? I mean, just think about that, right? So to me, that's a good indicator of where things are going in the future.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Yat. I think that summarizes what we're expecting and where we are at. And any closing words that you have for our listeners?
So, maybe 2 points. One, I think what we see in crypto right now is what the internet has done with information. So to us, the terminology is like value and value creation at the speed of the internet. So we see through tokenization and blockchain. And the second thing that we talk about a lot and keep wanting to hammer into people's minds is that what crypto is really doing is it's making people more financially literate. Right? There is no such thing as a person in crypto who doesn't have some appreciation and understanding of money. Right? They may be varying in knowledge, but they have an appreciation and understanding of money. And so if we believe, as we do certainly, that there's going to be billions of people in crypto, that means you're going to have billions of people that actually have financial literacy, which is not true today. Right? Like the level of people who have true financial literacy is actually in the hundreds of millions, maybe, right? That means you have more liquidity, more investment capacity, more knowledge in the space, and less risk as well in that sense. Like, remember, we used to have this thing called digital literacy. People didn't understand the internet. And then they got scammed by like Nigerian princes and, the 401 scams, that kind of stuff, where people sending you an email, MLMs, all that stuff, right? Because they didn't understand it, right? And now, very few, if anyone, falls for that because they see the patterns. And that's what we need for the world of finance. People are falling for finance scams because they don't understand it. But if you understand it, you won't fall for that. And that's basically what will happen. So we'll have a safer financial environment, which means we have more access, more financial literacy, more liquidity, and broadly speaking, I think a better infrastructure for the world.
Absolutely. We're all optimistic about that future. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us on the Coin Republic once again. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.